I'm adding this shorter little video here at the end because I don't think I finished off. My video recording thing there has to limit to 15 minutes, and I was a little crammed there, so I thought I would kind of try to do this last part over again. Okay, so I wrote out the quadrants already, the same as you have previously. You know, degrees on the left there and radians on the right. So let's look at degrees here first. We're trying to determine what quadrant something is in. So 200 degrees. Well, 200 degrees is more than 180 but less than 270. So that should be in quadrant 3. Okay, some of these degree ones are pretty easy. 112. Well, 112 is more than 90 but less than 180. So that's in quadrant 2. Right, so those straightforward, I think, should be pretty easy. 3 now, 400 degrees. Well, 400 is not between any of the numbers up here, so it's more than 360. So one of the things you can do, subtract out 360, you're left with 40 degrees, and then ask yourself what quadrant is 40 degrees in. Well, it's between 0 and 90, so that's in, I could put equals, but it's in quadrant 1. Another way of doing it is thinking about going, hey, I'm going to start here, 360 degrees, how much more? 40 more. I'm going to put you there. Next, the negative 100. Negative is the red, so what is that between? Well, negative 100 is between negative 90 and negative 180, so that's quadrant 3. Okay, so use this guide to answer those questions. All right. The last thing is the radians. They're the harder ones, there's no doubt about it. And in tomorrow's session, I might show you a different way to kind of do these that maybe would help, but I really want you to think about it in terms of this. And that is, it's fractions. So this pi over 2 is really, 1/2 pi. This is 1 pi. This one down here, which is not very good, I got erased. That's 2. 3 over 2 is the same thing as saying, 1.5 pi. And of course, that's 2 pi. So when you're thinking of things, is it between 0 and 1/2 pi, between 1/2 pi and 1, and so on. So 3/5, well, 3/5 is definitely less than 1. The only question is it more than half or less than half? Well, it's more than half, so that would be in quadrant 2. Okay. Number 2, 4/3. So it's definitely more than 1. How do we tell that, by the way? Well, something is more than 1 if the top number is bigger than the bottom. It's less than 1 if the top number is less than the bottom. So number 2, 4 is greater than 3, so that means it's more than 1. The question is it more than 1.5? Well, 4/3 is the same thing as saying 1 1/3 pi. Okay, now you can grab a calculator and test, type in 4/3, get 1.3 repeated, type in 3 over 2, you get 1.5, and go, oh yeah, that's less. So that means that's in quadrant 3. Hopefully you'll start to know by the fractions. 3 is a little bit trickier, 7 over 2. Well, how would we do that? Well, here's what we think about. Let's think about that as a mixed number. 3 and 1/2 pi. Well, that's a little tricky because that's more than one time around. You look here, okay? So what is that? Oh, and I did a bad one here. I'm going to change this one to make our life a little bit easier. I wasn't thinking. We'll blame that on being a little sick and not having all of the oxygen going to my brain. Okay, 7/3 is 2 and 1/3 pi, right? Okay, so 2 and 1/3, again, more than one time around. Well, what could you do? You could subtract 2 pi from that, because that's one time around, just like we did 360, and get 1/3 pi. And 1/3 is less than 1/2, so that means this is in quadrant 1. Okay, those are the tricky ones. Number 4, negative. All right, negative is tricky. So negative 7/8. Well, 7/8 is less than 1, but is it more than 1/2? Here's the negative 1/2, or is it less than? It's definitely more, so it's going to be quadrant 3. So those ones are a little bit tricky. Okay, so hopefully that helps a little bit more. One other thing that I'm going to mention that I didn't in the last one, but I know it's a problem. There's a thing called degrees, minutes, seconds. So 38 degrees, and let's say, 30 minutes. Okay, so 30 degrees, or 38 degrees, 30 minutes type of thing. What does that mean? Well, it's another way of breaking down degrees. In between every degree, there are 60 minutes. In between every minute, there is 60 seconds. We don't use it that often, but our book likes to throw them in there every so often. And they're going to in the one assignment. It really doesn't matter. You could almost just ignore it for this assignment, but not in the future. The only place that really gets degrees, minutes, seconds gets used a lot kind of in like a ship captain. They usually hear in movies, you know, plot a course, 38 degrees, 32 minutes, 15 seconds, that kind of thing. But we're not going to use it here too often, but you will see it from time to time. Well, you can change it to a decimal. So there's 60 minutes in a degree. So you go 30 divided by 60, which is 0.5. So this is the same thing as saying 38.5. Now, the thing is, this comes up in these questions about what quadrant something is in. If you just ignored the 30 minutes, it's going to be the same quadrant. This would be, you know, quadrant 1, no matter if it's a decimal or the degree, minutes, seconds. I just wanted to mention it because you'll see it and you go, what's that? What's that? Okay? All right. There will be an assignment posted, and if you ever have questions, you know, email me. I'll be checking in and all that kind of stuff. Okay? All right. Take care.